Winter of 1992. The streets of Milan were quiet, yet behind the closed doors of banks and government offices, a storm was gathering, one that would shake the foundations of Italy's economy and send ripples across Europe. Currency traders whispered in frantic tones, foreign investors held their breath, and ordinary citizens unknowingly braced for a financial tremor that could change their lives forever. How could a single currency, a symbol of national pride, almost collapse so quickly? What hidden forces were at play, shaping the fate of a nation without most people noticing? This was more than numbers on a screen. It was a story of power, politics, and human ambition where the choices of a few in Rome and London, Frankfurt and Washington could topple markets, and where the interconnectedness of global finance revealed its invisible, relentless grip. Investors across Europe watched in disbelief as the lira wavered against the German mark. Analysts exchanged glances with a mix of astonishment and concern. Citizens felt the pressure in rising prices, in uncertainty at the grocery stores, and in quiet conversations over dinner tables. Could this happen in your country too? Could a hidden financial storm ripple unnoticed, until it strikes with devastating clarity? The story of Italy in 1992 is a cautionary tale, a glimpse behind the curtains of global finance, where ambition, policy, and timing collide in ways most of us will never see. If stories like this fascinate you, subscribe to join us as we uncover hidden global truths. And tell us, where are you watching from? The story begins not in the bustling trading floors, but in quiet offices tucked away in Rome and London, where economists and policymakers debated the fate of the lira. Italy in the early 1990s was a nation balancing on a knife edge: high public debt, fragile political coalitions, and an increasingly ambitious goal: joining the European exchange rate mechanism, the precursor to the euro. To most citizens, the lira was a familiar part of daily life, a symbol of stability. Yet, behind the polished facades of banks, the truth was far less comforting. International investors were beginning to notice cracks. Italy's economy, long propped up by short-term borrowing and careful fiscal illusions, was under pressure. It started with subtle signs: small but persistent drops in the lira's value, nervous comments in the Financial Times, and whispered speculation in Swiss banking corridors. Analysts in Frankfurt exchanged uneasy glances. Parisian financiers questioned the prudence of Italy's policies. How could a major European economy seem so vulnerable, yet remain almost invisible in mainstream headlines? The paradox fascinated and terrified me. For the citizens of Milan, Naples, and Rome, the day-to-day rhythm carried on trambells, espresso cups, and crowded piazzas, unaware that a storm brewed beyond their windows. By September, the murmurs became urgent warnings. The lira, once considered a stable anchor in southern Europe, was under attack by currency speculators, betting against a nation they saw as overextended and politically unstable. Government officials scrambled to maintain confidence, issuing statements that reassured no one. Overnight, the question shifted: could Italy weather the pressure, or was the collapse inevitable? By late autumn, the pressure on the lira had become impossible to ignore. Rumors that Italy might devalue its currency sent shockwaves through global markets. In London, currency traders watched screens flicker with rapid declines. In Tokyo, investment managers debated whether to hedge European positions. Every news headline, every quiet leak from Rome, carried enormous weight. Italy's economy, already teetering on the edge, felt the weight of decades of unresolved debt and political compromise. Inside the corridors of power, decisions were made in secrecy. Ministers huddled with central bank officials, weighing interventions, emergency interest rate hikes, and appeals for foreign support. Yet the global forces at work were beyond their control. Speculators moved with precision, timing, and ruthlessness. The lira's value fell again, sometimes by several points in a single day, shaking confidence not just in Italy, but across Europe. Citizens noticed subtle changes: rising prices at local markets, whispers among shopkeepers, anxious conversations at cafes. The tension was palpable, yet the true scale of the crisis remained hidden from most. Foreign reactions were swift and cinematic. German economists warned of contagion. London city analysts debated the morality of profiting from a nation in peril. Television broadcasts in France, Switzerland, and even the United States began reporting on the fragile lira, turning an almost invisible financial strain into a story of international attention. Italy, a nation proud of its post-war recovery, suddenly seemed vulnerable, exposed not by war or politics, but by invisible currents in global finance. And then, in a single decisive move, the unthinkable happened. Italy exited the exchange rate mechanism, allowing the lira to float freely against the mark. The implications would ripple across the continent, and the world would never view Italy the same way again. The moment Italy abandoned the exchange rate mechanism, global markets erupted. Traders in Frankfurt and London reacted within seconds, their screens lighting up with cascading red numbers. The lira plunged, sliding against the German mark in a dizzying spiral. Investors across Europe watched in disbelief, scrambling to adjust positions, hedge losses, and contain exposure. In Tokyo and New York, financial news anchors described Italy's move as unprecedented and a shockwave that could destabilize the continent. Analysts exchanged tense glances, a mix of astonishment and apprehension, knowing that one country's financial tremor could trigger seismic shifts far beyond its borders. The consequences were immediate and visceral. Importers in Italy faced skyrocketing costs, exporters struggled to adapt to new exchange rates, and ordinary citizens saw the value of their savings shrink almost overnight. Markets in Spain, Portugal, and Greece wavered, caught in the aftershock. In Washington, policymakers debated whether to intervene or allow the crisis to run its course, mindful that any action or inaction would carry global repercussions. The delicate web of European finance, once considered stable, now quivered under the weight of uncertainty. Speculators, emboldened by volatility, moved aggressively. Short selling became a spectacle of strategy and risk, with fortunes shifting in minutes. Yet amid the chaos, some investors sensed opportunity, betting that Italy's resilience and Europe's eventual support would restore equilibrium. The paradox of crisis and chance unfolded simultaneously, a stark reminder of how interconnected, unpredictable, and human global finance truly is. As winter deepened, so did the turbulence. Italy's exit from the exchange rate mechanism was no longer a distant financial event, it had become a story of global consequence. London City was gripped by frenetic speculation. In Paris, bankers debated the moral and economic implications of profiting from Italy's misfortune. Even in Tokyo, analysts traced every lira movement, mapping the potential ripple effects on emerging markets. The world had suddenly tuned in, and Italy's crisis became a lesson in how fragile national economies could appear under the unforgiving lens of global finance. Back in Rome, government officials faced mounting pressure. Emergency measures were enacted, interest rates were raised to unprecedented levels, public statements aimed to restore confidence, and negotiations with European partners accelerated. Yet the mood was tense, almost surreal. Citizens queued at banks, wary of withdrawals, while shopkeepers adjusted prices daily, caught in the invisible tug-of-war between speculation and policy. The streets, once filled with routine rhythms, now echoed uncertainty. International reactions layered the drama with both concern and opportunism. German policymakers emphasized stability, while hedge funds in London and New York quietly capitalized on the turmoil. Media coverage in Switzerland and France amplified the tension, painting a picture of a nation on the edge. And yet, amidst the panic, analysts began to detect patterns. Italy's economy, though battered, retained resilience in unexpected sectors: manufacturing, exports, and tourism. The question became not if Italy would survive, but how its financial strategies would evolve to meet the relentless pressures of an interconnected world. When the storm finally passed, Italy was left to reckon with both loss and revelation. The lira had stabilized, but the social and economic scars lingered. Ordinary citizens reflected quietly on the vulnerability of their savings, the sudden shifts in prices, and the fragility of systems they had once taken for granted. Families in Milan and Naples debated long into the night about what lessons the crisis had taught them about trust, governance, and the invisible forces shaping daily life. Globally, the episode became a case study in interconnectedness. Economists in London and Frankfurt analyzed the mechanics of speculative attacks, policymakers in Washington reconsidered the limits of intervention, and journalists across Europe wrote cautionary tales about the perils of unbridled market freedom. Italy, once seen as a stable Mediterranean economy, had revealed the human face of financial turmoil, fear, uncertainty, and resilience entwined in every story of loss and survival. The nation's pride, though bruised, endured. Citizens understood that while a single decision or a few speculators' bets could destabilize markets overnight, the collective spirit of communities, businesses, and institutions had the power to adapt, recover, and rebuild. Italy's winter of 1992 became more than an economic event. It became a mirror reflecting both the fragility and the enduring strength of human society in a globalized world. In the quiet months that followed, Italy began to rebuild, but the lessons of 1992 remained etched into the collective memory. Investors became more cautious, policymakers more vigilant, and citizens more aware of the invisible threads connecting their daily lives to distant financial centers. The crisis had exposed a paradox. A nation could appear strong, its institutions venerable, yet still be at the mercy of forces far beyond its borders. Yet amidst the fragility, there was resilience. Small businesses adapted, communities supported one another, and Italy's cultural and economic spirit endured. Citizens learned to navigate uncertainty with patience and ingenuity, finding ways to protect their livelihoods while waiting for stability to return. The winter of 1992 was no longer just a story of a currency under attack. It had become a testament to the delicate balance between human ambition, global finance, and societal perseverance. For the world watching, the lesson was unmistakable. Economic crises are never just about numbers. They are deeply human stories, intertwined with pride, fear, and the unyielding drive to survive and rebuild. Italy's experience became a mirror for other nations, a reminder that in a connected world, the ripple of one nation's instability can touch lives thousands of miles away. And yet, within that vulnerability lies the remarkable capacity of people and systems to endure, adapt, and rise again. In the end, the story of Italy's winter of 1992 reminds us that the forces shaping our world are often invisible, yet deeply human. Borders may divide us, currencies may fluctuate, and markets may tremble, but the experiences of fear, resilience, and adaptation are universal. From Milan's bustling piazzas to the trading floors of London and New York, the echoes of that winter reveal the delicate web connecting us all. Learn to navigate uncertainty with patience and ingenuity, finding ways to protect their livelihoods while waiting for stability to return. The winter of 1992 was no longer just a story of a currency under attack. It had become a testament to the delicate balance between human ambition, global finance, and societal perseverance. For the world watching, the lesson was unmistakable. Economic crises are never just about numbers. They are deeply human stories, intertwined with pride, fear, and the unyielding drive to survive and rebuild. Italy's experience became a mirror for other nations, a reminder that in a connected world, the ripple of one nation's instability can touch lives thousands of miles away. And yet, within that vulnerability lies the remarkable capacity of people and systems to endure, adapt, and rise again.